Dude. Oh. I'm tired, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Oh my goodness. Holy smokes. Here, say something. I want to make sure I can hear you again.
Something.
There you go. That'll work. You know what'll tire you out real quick?
Yeah.
3 to 4 foot waves in about 15 mile an hour winds.
Yeah, buddy.
But you know what? I'm a better man for it because I
I'm
made
sure.
it. I lived through it and I had a good time.
And you caught fish, right?
Caught a bunch of fish. We'll show off some pictures.
Yeah, man. It looked awesome.
We did pretty good. You should have seen it. Too bad we didn't have a camera rolling. Me and Jerry's grandson, we both fell over in the boat trying to get one of my fish in. It was pretty funny. It was ridiculous.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad you had a good time.
So we're gonna do a show about old outboard. What'd you say?
Good groceries.
Yeah, no kid, man. I'm gonna smoke some of them for Betty Jean when she comes out.
Heck yeah.
She already made her request.
Bless her heart.
Next week, I think we'll talk a little bit. How are you doing, Lyle? I know you've been busy with some personal stuff. We won't get into that. But.
Yep, been busy, and I'm starting to Jones on not getting to. I haven't been fishing in a couple of days, so I'm really ready to get after that and get back to hell. I fished 9 days in a row, and then 7 days in a row, and then 4 days in a row. Only time I wasn't fishing if it was pouring down rain. And now it's been a few days since I've been, so it's time for me to get back at it. And it's Mark, fishing is so relaxing, and it'll take your mind off of stuff. And a buddy of mine, Keith Atkins, him and I used to fish together a lot. And I swear we fixed the world's problems in our boat. We talk about politics and people's health and different things, and this was a long time ago. But when we got done, we was convinced we knew how to fix the world, and that was before Donald Trump was ever in the picture.
I was waiting for that. I was going to say they didn't get the memo up at the top with your answers to life's questions.
For about 4 years, they sure as hell didn't.
Yeah, that's no joke. Holy smokes!
But you're right about the outboard motor.
You're right about it being relaxing and calming and soothing, solving problems. Today we're holding on for dear life. I ain't gonna kid you.
Man, what'd you say? Tell me 3 foot waves.
Three plus. We had some 4 foot rollers. It was crazy. Listen to this. We're trolling at like 2.5 to 3 miles an hour, right? Be at the top of one of them, it'd be about 1 mile an hour. By the time you got to the bottom of one of them hills, it was 4 mile an hour.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It made for a little rough fishing, but we did pretty good. We had I got some pictures to show off here in a little bit.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I saw a lot of bigger boats out there. Some were handling it better than others, but like one of the like I saw, I'm not bad mouthing any boat, but I saw big like 24-foot Hughescraft out there today, right? Mm-hmm. And they were bobbing like a bobber, just like we were, because that hull is such a V on those boats. They were swaying all over the place.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
you think a boat that size would be a little more sturdier. I mean, they were comfortable. They had a hard top, the whole deal. You know, they're sheltered from the wind, but you know, them guys in them big fiberglass walleye boats, they seem to be handling it better than a lot of them, at least on the small boat side.
That makes sense
That's,
to me.
you know, we were in Jerry's boat. I haven't had a chance to get mine out just because I don't have the gear on my boat yet. That's a big investment. We'll see how long that takes to happen. But you
I
know,
can help you with that.
no.
I can too.
No, you talked about solving the world's problems. You need to work on healthcare because I got medical bills that are ridiculous. Not to bitch too much and get into
I
to any
understand.
details. It's been ridiculous.
Well, I will give you a little tip about that. The older
Don't go. That's my new tip. That's
the older you
my
get, the worse you get.
do not go. Take care of yourself a little better. Plain and simple.
Well, that's true.
Oh, look at this. Someone is trying to ignore me again. She didn't notice I was wearing a Pontoon Jody shirt last week, just waiting for her to say something about my attire.
Hello, Jody.
If she don't believe me, she can go back and watch the episode. I think she should.
I
Jody,
think so
go.
too.
She's such a brat. Give me an old carbureted outboard any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Fuel, spark, compression. You have all three. You play all day. Yep, that's exactly what we're going to go over, Josh. And if you guys have any more questions, go over to the Weekend Anglers channel and Josh's channel and start with his outboard stand because that's going to help you. The reason why I thought this would be a good topic, a buddy of mine just redid his whole pontoon boat, right? From top to bottom, all new decking, all new aluminum, the whole deal, fixed everything. But he went to go put the outboard back on. He dropped it and cracked the lower end. So he's like, "Hey, come with me to go look for an outboard." So I went with them, and we found something that was pretty solid. So I figured we could go over exactly what I did to get him an outboard that in fact is working in shape. So
Well, I hope you guys get everything lined out. I have had older boats for years, like all of us have, with carburetors and different things, and I can sort of work on them. I was in the automotive business my whole life, but outboards are not the same. But these new ones are like the new car. You've got to have test equipment for them and cost a lot of money for all that stuff. And I'm with Josh. Give me the ones that I can, if it's got fire, it's got compression, if it's got gas, it's supposed
let's
to
not
run.
jump ahead of ourselves. I got notes that we got to go through one by one. We got a whole hour to entertain people here with this information, Lyle. You do that to me every week. We need to have a meeting before these shows. And then we can get on the same page and do some entertaining here because that's what it's all about.
That's right. You're right.
Let me show off some pictures, do a little bragging, but most important, I want to make sure that we show his grandson's picture off here. Let me share the screen here. Share screen. Let me see if I can find it here. I think this is what I want to share. All right, these are from today. These are from today's catch. They're pretty decent ones. Look at that. We got 7 coho and the first king of the year. That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
This is really, really early for the kings to start coming in, but that tells you how big how much bigger kings are. And boy, did he have a smile on his face when he caught that one today. It must have fought him for a good 10 minutes solid. It was running, peel and drag. It must have pulled, 50 yards of line on him while we were moving. He was really excited. He was, he's kind of lost for words once he caught it. So it was great to see. His grandpa got a picture, which we're going to show you here in a minute. This is from the week before. This is when we got our 3-man limit. That's me, obviously, the big ugly guy right there. There's Jerry. Jerry, Jerry. Jerry's
very cool.
Tell everybody how you know Jerry, because he kind of went back in history and told me how you guys met and stuff.
We
last
met,
time around.
At Mendota on the very first trip that I went up there, and Jerry, other than some health issues he's had over the years, is the same old Jerry. Man, can that guy cook? Holy crap!
not only cook, the guy's, you know, I don't know what his age is. I don't ask those things of anybody. It's none of my business. But that guy's like a mountain goat on that boat. He's up on the gun, up on the front, up and down, all over the place. The guy will make, you know, a guy a third his age look slow. So, and then this other gentleman here, that's Nick. He's a pastor that is a pastor at Jerry's church. He came with us. He's a hell of a fisherman. He's when it coming down to Big Lake fishing, the guy knew what he was talking about. So I was happy to learn a lot from him. So here's Jerry's grandson picture with that king. Look at the smile on that young man's face. He got
that awesome.
He got called in from school today, so he was happy like you couldn't see. So he was pretty happy. But this is the inside of Jerry's boat. There's the downriggers. He's got a couple of Big John downriggers that he bought on Facebook Marketplace. He was telling me he got a killer deal for them.
Good deal.
And so I've been kind of looking for those too, but that picture is a little deceiving. It was a little windier than that out there, but I think that's why we didn't limit out today. I think going up and down those hills was making the speed of those baits too erratic. So
could be,
but we did well anyways. We came home with meat for the freezer. So
heck yeah.
Came home with meat for the freezer. That's all that counts. So that was my last couple of weeks of fishing. It was pretty good. I got plans for next week too. I think I'm going up to Mendota. I'm gonna look for big bluegill first. This is what I'm gonna do because that's what I want to get. And then the next week, if I don't switch it up to channel cats this next week, I'm gonna have that guest that we talked about, and we're gonna go up there and we're gonna fish for some of them big channel cats. I hear they're in there already. So if you want to drive up here, you just let me know.
Oh, I'd love to. I just got so much stuff going on right now. I really can't, but man, that's an awesome place to fish.
It is. It's a lot of fun, that's for sure. I know when we were up there, we had a blast together. That was a good time.
Yep, it was a great time, and there'll be some more times like that because them fish aren't going nowhere. And I wake up from naps all the time thinking, "Damn, I wish I was in Mendota."
You know, they closed Mendota City Park for the year. They're doing all sorts of improvements, they say. But after talking to Jerry, they said that they're cutting all the trees down in there, which is unfortunate. But they're doing it for insurance reasons. When we were up there last year, they had those horrible storms, and 2 of the trees fell down on campers, so it caused a lot of problems. So,
yeah, that's good. Hey, Matt, how you doing, buddy?
We'll say hello to everybody, but I want to highlight this. Jody says, nothing like flathead. Jody ain't caught a flathead in 2 years. She don't know what that even means.
Here we go.
Here we go. Let me say hello to... Go ahead.
Before you do, I watched the video this morning of a guy catching flathead, and I like the flathead fish, but it's very time consuming, and you got to be a flathead guy to do it correctly. I watched the guy today, and he was just ripping them one right after the other. So I'm getting the bug again. I'm gonna get everything set up and get my bait. And I'm gonna go after them flatheads here before long. I'm jonesing for that too, right?
Well, speaking of flatheads, our buddy, I saw Ryan's in here. He sent me a preview of a bait tank that he's working on. I asked him if I could share the pictures. He asked me to wait until next week. He says he'll have it all done and set, ready to go with fish in there. He's doing some pretty exciting things. So it'll be great, and I appreciate him being willing to share those with us when he's ready. So
that's awesome.
He
can send them to Josh too. That'd be good.
Yep, heck yeah, we can do that too. Maybe we'll do a bait tank show or something. I don't know. It'd be kind of fun to do that under. Let me say hello to everybody. There's my best friend, Burrito Catfish Lady. How you doing, Lisa? Craig Burgess in the house. There's our channel supporter extraordinaire, Joe Buck 66. He's been a member for a good long time. There's Mike Irvin and I6. What's going on, Mike? How you doing? There's Pontoon Jody. She is a blue cat fisher woman extraordinaire. Notice I said blue cat fisher woman. Speak of the devil, there's setting hooks and crossing eyes. What's going on, Ryan? There's Josh over at the Weekend Angler. Wabash Nate's here with us. How you doing, Wabash Nate? There's Matt, my buddy. Matt sent some pictures of some floating walleye flies. Matt, if you comment in chat, if I can share those pictures of those, I'll do that later on in the show. But he's been tying some floating flies that float off the bottom. So
That sounds cool. I'm interested in that.
Let's see what Matt has to say here. He says, I'm not inviting myself, but Mr. Lyle, I'd love to drive up sometime and fish with you. I can take Chad's spot on the cinnamon roll list.
Well, Matt, you let me get a few things lined out here, and we'll make that happen.
Hey, there's our buddy Frank. What's going on, Frank? How you doing? Hopefully, the tattoo business is doing you well. Let's see what else we got in here. See if we missed any chats here before we get started. Let's see. There's something going on with Josh and Jody in chat. I don't know what that's all about.
I'm getting into that.
Oh, look at that. Josh says, wouldn't it be something if there was some place you could send photos of fish you're proud of? I guess you could. That would be sweet. You know what he's talking about, Lyle?
I do. It's called the Bragging Board, and it's shown every Monday night on Catfish Weekly.
And look at this. Matt says, I guess you can show them, Mark, as long as Lyle doesn't laugh.
I won't laugh, man.
At least not during the show.
He
laughs.
Who am I to judge?
All right. So I kind of went into why I thought about talking about old outboards on the show. And I told you about my buddy's predicament with him cracking the lower end on his older outboard. So I got to thinking we'd just kind of go over what you would do, what we did when it came to it. You know, he was fortunate. He's fortunate enough. He's good friends with my sponsor. He actually introduced me to my sponsor, JT, over at Barrington Marina. And he said he had some people who had some old outboards sitting in their garage. So he hooked us up with a number and we went out there. So we went out to a guy that lived here in the area, not too far. He had, I think it was an old Evinrude motor. It was a 50 horsepower, but I think it was like an 89. So it was a little older in years, but you know, my buddy's got 6 kids. So 6 boys
wow.
he's got to take care of. So he's looking on the low end. So we went out there and looked at it. So first thing we did, obviously, Lyle, is do a visual inspection. When you're looking at a used outboard, what are you looking at visually?
When I'm looking at a used outboard, the first thing I want to do is pull the spark plugs out of it and take a look.
Well, we'll get to that, but I mean, what are you looking at it just on the outside?
On the outside, if it's not all beat up and cracked up and, you know, you can tell by looking at one if it's had good caretaking. You can tell by looking at the motor if it's been laying out in the sun all the time and never been covered up. Things like that tells me whether guys really took care of it or not.
Yeah, if it's been laying in the backyard or in a field somewhere, that's never a good sign. You know, when you go to take the cowling off, look for mouse feces, obviously,
exactly. And squirrel nest, anything like that.
Anything like that, because if you get them in there, they're going to be chewing on wires, and that's never good.
That's right. The prop, if it's all beat to hell, you know that they haven't. They didn't try to keep it from getting tore up.
Yeah, the scagg as well. That's usually a good sign. If they've been running it across rocks like some of the people here in chat, I won't name Jody, but
you know, again, I have to confess, I have the very end of my scagg broke off from forgetting to raising it up and pulling it out of the water. Go figure. You know, things happen, and I got that, and I can get. They make a deal that goes over it and covers it up. You glue it on, bolt it on, or something, and it's stainless steel, and it'll go right back to normal. But it's not been an issue. And a friend of mine, Chris Cordia, had bought a brand new CR a few years ago, and he broke the scagg off of his. It wasn't 2 weeks old. And what he done was took a grinder with a grinding wheel on it, smoothed that baby up, shot some black paint on it. As far as I know, he's still running it.
Giddy up.
That's right.
You know, it happens to the best of us. Not that I'm any of that, but I had one launch that I used for the longest time. I must have launched 200, 300 times out of that launch. Never had a problem. I found that one rock one time in my old boat, Lyle, and chipped my scagg on there.
That's all it takes.
This is all it'll take. It'll happen. And it wasn't even on plane or anything. It was just backing off the boat and motoring out slow and idle. And I just hit it the right way, cracked a little bit off my scagg, and that was done. Now, that being said, if you happen to come across a motor that's got that, it's not the end of the world. And we'll go over another thing that I would check to make sure that the damage isn't greater. If it's got an aluminum prop, chances are it'll be okay, because aluminum's a lot more pliable than if it's got stainless. But the kind of motors we're talking about 9.9s and 15 horsepower motors. We're talking about buy what you need to get on the water. An older motor, you should be all right. So yeah, those are definitely cracks in the lower end. Look for oil leaks. Make sure it's got oil in it. That's a good sign too when you pull a dipstick. So that's where I would start. So next thing I'm doing is I'm pulling the cowling off, right? We already talked about looking for rodent infestation or chewed up wires and stuff like that. But the first thing I like to do is I like to make sure that flywheel turns. If that flywheel ain't turning, it's probably not a good deal, Lyle.
That's true. That's very true. It has to turn. If not, then you might as well just chalk it up or whatever. Because it's got to turn. It just has to, because if you can't turn it by hand, chances are the starter's not going to turn.
Yeah, chances are it could be seized for sure. You don't want any of that. And hey, Robin, see how you doing? Says, when is old too old? A 1966 home light. If it runs and it gets you from point A to point B reliably, use what you got. I mean, there's guys out there with antique cars, Model T Fords, that drive them to work and back and forth once a week, and they don't have problems. So just know your machinery.
That's right.
Josh says, rule number 1, if you go to look at used outboard motors, don't bring a compression tester with you. You're wrong. I don't know about all that. We brought a compression tester with us, and the guy let us use it because it was a friend of a friend's. Some people might not want you to do that, but that's definitely, if you have access to be able to do that, even after you get home, it's a good idea to use a compression tester. I have a Harbor Freight Model 1 that works pretty well. We brought that with us, and the guy let us use it, and it was a 2-cylinder, Lyle. So even if you don't know what I missed a word. What did I miss? So rule number 1, if you go to look at a used outboard and don't bring a compression tester with you, you're wrong. Okay, you're absolutely right, Josh. Sorry about that. My bad.
100%.
And basically you just pull the plug, put it in there. Even if you don't know what the compression should be, if it's a 2-cylinder, which I wouldn't buy anything that isn't. Most small outboards are 2-cylinders, if I'm not mistaken, right, Lyle?
Most of them are, yeah. Now the newer ones, I eventually think you're gonna see 2-stroke be obsolete one day. But as long as you still got them, man, they're just easier for me.
Yep. I think they're different. I don't know if they're necessarily easier. I think if you got compression that matches between the 2 cylinders, that's a good chance that you're doing all right. And you hook up the compression tester after you pull the plug, pull the cord, to start it like 4 times or until it tops out on compression. Make note of what you got. Let's say you got 80 PSI or 100 plus PSI, depending on the motor, and you go to the 2nd cylinder and it matches pretty closely. Chances are you got decent compression. That's a great place to start. When you agree?
It is.
Now next, not necessarily if you're going to buy, but once you get that home, if the flywheel turns, you got no cracks in the case, you got good compression, you're in pretty good shape. That's something that most people can fix. If you don't know how, you don't have a manual to do it, you can find the videos on YouTube.
That's right. And YouTube is your friend for a lot of things, and that's one of them.
Another tool that I have that I picked up, I don't remember where I got it from, but I got a spark checker. It's just a little wire with a little light tester that goes between your spark plug and your spark plug wire. Mm-hmm. And you pull the cord and you can visually see if it's got spark or not. If you're getting a spark, I'm sorry?
And the color of the spark.
I didn't know about the color. Tell me about that.
If it's yellowish color, it's a weak spark. If it's blue, it's a hot spark.
Mine just lights up red. I have never seen any other color than red.
That may be the best of all.
I don't know. That's why I asked.
I'm not seeing reddish yellow. That I'm saying, but the blue is the hot stuff.
Yeah, I just got a cheap one, so I don't know how good it is, but it lets me know if it's bang, if it's going off. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. What would you do? Put a coil in there, Lyle? Take a look at the coil.
Yeah, and there's the dealers have a way of testing them. I do not. I was an automobile mechanic, not an outboard motor, and they are different, and they're not as easy for me because I just didn't do a lot of that. Speaking of Jeremy Coleman, I got a message from him the other day. I
did too.
enjoyed it so much. He asked me about catching crappie, and I of course, we've been catching some, but he's really been on. He caught some really nice ones, so it was great to hear from you, Jeremy.
Just absolutely. When I got that message from Jeremy, it was good to see him speaking up. He's been killing it with some fish too. I've been seeing him catch some big crappie and even a couple of big blues in the recent past. So make sure you're following him on Facebook if you can.
Holy crap! Looky here, Lee Evans. Haven't heard from him in a while. Sure glad to see him in here.
What's up, Lee? How you doing, bud? And there's JG Hill. He had another comment. He said, compression testers are cheap at Harbor Freight. Amen. That's exactly where I got mine from.
And you know, if tap on, but it's got 9,000 things that it'll fit, you know.
One of the things I look for if I'm having problems with spark is I'll pull that coil off, and you know how they're filled with epoxy behind them?
Right.
Take a look to see if that's cracked. If they're cracked or there's problems physically in its appearance, that's a good sign that it's bad. Now, that if you replace that coil, that might not be the only problem. That gets into a little higher level stuff. It's not that it's unfixable, but it's not something I'm really versed at. I would definitely have to look at a manual or call you or Josh up, and I'd have plenty of questions. Which you guys
Josh would be a better option. I mean, I try to help anybody with anything that I can, but Josh is so knowledgeable on outboard, really good on carburetors and different things. So, yeah. When I have issues like when I put the big battery in my boat, I was concerned about wires. So who did I? Wasn't Ghostbusters. It was Josh. Weekend Egg.
There you go. Yeah, I had a question with him how to wire in my old boat, how to wire an automatic float bilge pump, which he helped walk me through. So, yeah, right. Josh is a great. We should probably put him on the show too. He's a great resource if you can get him to do that. So,
I'm thinking Jeremy Coleman might make us a good guest one night if he's interested.
I wouldn't doubt that one bit whatsoever. All right, so we're checking for sparks. So that's where you go from there if you're having problems.
Right.
Another thing that I like to do is make sure the prop turns freely. Definitely put it in forward. Does it stop? If it stopped, that's a good sign that it's not seized up, that it works. To put it in reverse, make sure the motor stops. You can feel it stop. That's a good sign that it's the lower end isn't seized up. So
that's right. Good evening, lady.
Hello, Benoit. How you doing? Let's see what Josh had to add here. He says, I use an adjustable spark or adjustable gap spark tester. It's harder to spark under compression. So open the gap to 7/16 inch.
Wow.
And it will jump a 7/16 inch gap in open air. If it does, it's plenty hot. Gotcha.
Yeah, I agree. That's a big jump. Half Century, welcome to the show. Glad to see you in chat tonight, buddy.
What's up, 50 Cent? Frank says a shift wrench or carrier nut wrench set. A what?
Shaft wrench.
Shaft wrench or a carrier nut wrench set is good to have as well, no doubt.
That's I don't have those things, but I'm sure that he's correct. Frank's kind of like Josh. He's correct most of the time.
JG Hill says, I have a timing light as well. Not expensive again. I got a timing light, but I've never used one on an outboard, so I wouldn't even know where to start. Would not start with that.
Again, YouTube will tell you how.
There's a good tip from Lee. Bad gas can cause you problems too.
Very correct.
You know, we'll get into that once you get that motor in your little. Well, let's say you're having problems with usability of the motor. It can be as simple as, fresh gas, draining the carburetor bowl, and so on. I am by far not an expert at carburetors. What I do with carburetors, which is pretty much easy peasy stuff, is I'll take it apart, run carb cleaner through all the orifices, make sure that the float bowl, when I turn it upside down, falls and it's level, right, with the base of the carburetor.
Yep.
Make sure that the needle in there isn't sticking. If that's not sticking, take it apart, remember where you got everything, clean everything, make sure your gaskets are good, and put it back together. Lyle, would you say that's pretty good advice?
I'd say that's very good advice. Absolutely. Good evening, Lance. Glad to see you in here this evening.
And if that doesn't, if you get your carburetor, another thing that I've come across in the past, if cleaning the carburetor doesn't help, it could very well be a fuel pump too. If you can get the manual or find what part number it is, you can get a look at it. I know that fuel pumps can be rebuilt on outboards, but if you're going to do that to save $10, make sure you watch those springs because they'll go flying.
They will. And while we're on the fuel system thing, a lot of outboard motors have a filter. If you have not cleaned it, you just don't even worry about cleaning it. Look at it. If it looks dirty, change it. Should change it once a year. The gas today is no better quality or any less debris or dirt or whatever you want to call it in that fuel today than it was 50 years ago. It looked good when you're hosing it in your vehicle, and fuel filters still get plugged up. So if it doesn't have one and you have room for one or put one in line, a fuel filter is always a good idea.
And if you're changing the fuel filter, Lyle, especially on an old outboard, my personal opinion is go down to O'Reilly's or AutoZone and get new fuel lines, because the old fuel lines will collapse under ethanol use, lickety split. Make sure you got a good bulb on your fuel tank that you're using too, because those will get beat up too from ethanol. That's another tip that you need to remember. So
another thing that happens to the old style fuel hoses is it will separate inside. And then you got little parts floating around as it goes through. So yeah, that's another reason to just make the fuel filter more important.
Yeah, 100%. And I know those fuel lines, not only do they collapse, but I also not or deteriorate. They do collapse from that ethanol
yes,
too.
They do.
So they'll choke your motor out. So keep that in mind, folks. See, look at this.
There's a problem with my motor a few years ago, Mark, and the fuel line had come apart on the inside and plugged the line where it hooked onto the motor. That little fitting that on the Mercury.
Yeah.
Gas couldn't go through it, man. I looked and I checked everything, and I took that off, and you couldn't blow through it. I knew right away it was restricted somewhere. I just ended up putting new lines on. They just eliminate the issue.
And it's not like you got to go to a marina to buy that stuff. You find out what size you need. Like I said, Advanced Auto, AutoZone, O'Reilly's, even Napa, bring them a piece of your fuel line in there. Those guys seem to be more professional than any of those other below, because they're the guys with the old timers like us behind the counter. They're
right.
Not a bunch of high school kids back there. No offense. There's a lot of smart high school kids out there
too.
But you got somebody who's been a mechanic their whole life. They retire and they work over at Napa for their part-time job. That's what you're finding there. So
I really think that all of the parts stores now, and I'm not sure, but all of them that I've been around, if you go in, ask for marine fuel or fuel line, they know what you're on.
Yeah,
so
they'll know what you can do.
Ethanol won't bother.
But that's a major problem with a lot of people that have outboard problems is fuel line related or bulb related too. So if you've had one for a while and it starts to give you issues, go start there. Make sure you check all the connections everywhere it's clamped to something in that outboard. Check them, because those clamps could be hard on older hoses as well. They'll wear. You're looking for leaks. You're smelling for gasoline in there. Once you start pulling it, you're having float problems if the carburetor's puking gasoline, things like that. You'll all learn. Don't be afraid. Try it. You'll figure it out.
Welcome, Dennis. Glad to see you in here. Dennis Lawrence with Northeast Missouri Angling has joined us.
What's going on, Dennis? And you like I had Benoit's comment highlighted here because I wanted to say, look, they love their 1983 99 Johnson. It runs so good. You know, a lot of times too, these people that have outboards sitting in their garage, they've been sitting out there for a long time. It doesn't mean that they're broke. It doesn't even mean that they won't start right away. It's just time takes its toll on rubber parts, takes its toll, you know, corrosion, you know, let's say the sparks not as good because the wires are bad. It's nothing that can't be taken care of simply. So
JG Hill has a great comment here too, Mark. The older motors, I suggest you just replace the fuel line because it will save you lots of carb issues. I agree with that.
100%. You know, if you're bringing home a motor that you bought like on Mark, we'll go over places to buy motors, obviously. But if you just, let's say you picked one up off a marketplace, you bring it home, change the plugs, change the hoses, change the fuel filter, make sure it's got all, well, we'll go over the maintenance and stuff too after this, but do all the maintenance that you need to get done to it, and you'll be on the water in no time. I mean, all of this stuff that me and Lyle are talking about is what, 30 minutes, a couple of hours on a Saturday if you don't know what you're doing.
If at the very most, if you don't know anything about them, it won't take any longer.
Greg says, Lyle, if a spark plug gets flooded out, they'll stop firing. Yeah, flooded one isn't bad. What do you do when you got a flooded motor, Lyle? How do you unflood it? What do you do?
An outboard, I take the plugs out of it and I unhook the fuel line from it where it can't get any gas, and I turn it over or pull the rope, whichever the case may be, a few times, and then let it set a while and either get new spark plugs for it, or I have a spark plug cleaner that you hook an air hose up to, and it has sand inside of it, and it'll make one sparkly, shiny new. But it never hurts to put a new spark plug in. They're not that expensive. They're a lot more expensive than they used to be, but they're still not.
Or you know, new spark plugs are what, $5 to $10 a piece.
Something
you can
like
always
that.
get new ones. If you're going to do that, I always recommend check the gap. Look up the specifications for the motor you have. You can get the serial number off your motor, enter that into Google. It'll tell you exactly what you have. Look for online documentation. It should have the gap to set your spark plugs to. Learn how to set a spark plug gap. It's pretty important. With an outboard, not so much. I mean, I've actually looked at a spark plug and the gap is kind of big, tapped it on the top of the flywheel, stuck it back in there, and it worked. But it's better to be safe than sorry. The more dead on you are, the better it's going to run. I don't care what anybody says.
Being in the automotive business, obviously I have gapping tools that you squeeze and it automatically sets them, or the kind that you roll around. But on an outboard, I look at it, and if it needs to be opened up, stick the blade of my pocket knife in there and just give it a little. And if it's too much, I'm like you, I'll find something hard and tap it on there and close it up a little bit. You know. But you can look at your old ones, and they're probably a little wider than what it should be. So just, be observant, and you'll be fine.
Frank's got some good maintenance things too, so maybe we'll use that as a segue going to the next one. Now, that spark gap gauge, they're like $2 at O'Reilly's.
Yeah.
$50. They're nothing. It's a little metal, like round, oversized coin looking thing, maybe the size of a silver dollar or something. And you slide the spark plug along the outside of it until you get to where it stops, and right there it'll have a measurement on there. It'll tell you. There's even a little notch on the end of it. You can use that to bend the spark plug to the right gap. You'll figure it out. It's no big deal. I know a lot of the people in chat here already know how to do this, but this is for the rest of the people out there. So
that's right. And some people are a lot more knowledgeable than others, and we're trying to cover the basics, not to get terribly in depth. But yeah. Welcome, Bobby Brooks. Glad to see you join chat tonight. Glad to have you.
Welcome, Bobby. Always change the impeller and lower unit lube on any used outboard. Now, that's a great idea, but I'm going to tell you, before you do all of that, which you should definitely do, especially on a motor you know nothing about. What I would do, like what we did with my buddy's motor, is drop it in like a big old tote, like one of those ones you store stuff in, whether it's clear plastic or black plastic, or if you have a drum, which most people don't, anything bigger than just a bucket. I would rather do that with a motor that I'm working on than put ears on it. It's just less of a mess, and it's self-contained and so on. Get that motor running before you do all of that. And the reason why I say that is, you can see how the motor is, the test opening that shoots a little stream of water out. You'll get an idea of the health of not just the impeller, but of the head on that motor. If it's barely shooting water out of the exhaust or out of that little test port, you know where to go from there. As long as it's shooting water out, you're in okay shape. What I would do is, if it's not really spitting that much water, which is used to cool the engine, for those people in listening don't know, it's not at least most motors aren't closed system. I know some IOs are, but that's another totally different animal. That could mean that there's something blocking in there, or you have a bad impeller. So I'd like to run it before I go ahead and start swapping the impeller out. That's why I would do that. So
right. And while we're on the subject of the pee hole, which is where the water runs out, so you can see that the impeller on the water pump's working, those things really do get plugged up amazingly easy. If you run into sand or something, it'll suck that up, and that little pebbles will plug it up where water won't squirt out. It
a mud dauber.
Oh, absolutely. They'll fill it up with dirt and stuff. So if it's not putting water out like it's supposed to, take a little short piece of wire and run it in and out of there 2 or 3 times. And if it gets better, that's great. If it don't, you're positively going to have to do something with water.
Yep, you're gonna have to go through. Now, I'm sure there's other ways of doing it, but if you're getting water out the exhaust, whether it's in the middle of the prop, on some of these smaller ones, it's not. There's actually an exhaust port on the back of the motor that should be spewing water out of it. And that test opening, as long as you're getting some water out there, you're having some cooling. The amount of that all depends on the motor, the displacement, things like that. You can play that by ear. But if you're buying a $200 outboard that, let's say, you want to just throw on the back of a John boat, as long as it's spitting water, it's a good place to start. Once you rule all of that stuff out and you straighten all of that, then it's time to do the maintenance on it. Definitely.
Yep. That's 100% correct. And
I would start
on them is not that hard.
No, it's not. I always start with an outboard. I always start with the bottom and I work my way up, because the only reason why I do it that way is because it makes sense to me. On a all outboards have a lower end, and they all take gear oil. Start draining that gear oil. That usually takes the longest to do. Look on YouTube. They'll tell you how usually there's a top vent hole. You open that last, you open the bottom vent hole, then you open the top one, and you just let it drain out. Inspect the oil coming out of there for moisture in it. If it's milky or whatever, you know that you could have a seal problem, but a seal problem always isn't the end be all. No. You could run it as long as it's not leaking gear oil out of the actual prop shaft behind the prop. You're okay. Another thing people get all excited, and I used to be one of them, is if you do have a little bit of water in there, that could be from slow usage. If you do a lot of trolling, a lot of dragging, that'll allow condensation in there, and you'll get a little bit of water in the gear case. Don't get all excited. What I like to do is I always buy a little extra gear oil, which gets pumped in there, by the way. Look on YouTube. It'll give you a step-by-step how to do it. But basically it entails pumping oil from the bottom until it comes out the top. What I like to do if I have a little water in mine is I'll hook it up to the top Lyle, and I'll pump some until it comes clear out the bottom. Right. Once it comes clear out the bottom, I know that it's flushed any moisture, any water out of there, and I'm not guessing the next time I'm doing it.
That's right. That's a great tip, Mark, because if there's moisture in there, you really do need to get as much of it out as you can, because it'll contaminate your new oil.
100%. It's just like starting at square one. And for those of you that know, in a sealed system, water does not compress. And if you got gears turning in there, it's compressing that oil enough. If you got water between there, it could cause you problems you don't want to do.
Correct. Here is a great tip. If you're taking an outboard out for the first time, bring a paddle. I learned that the hard way.
Or have a trolling motor. I've used a trolling motor a couple times to get home too, Lyle.
That's a great tip. It really is.
I got a big old 19-foot boat. I got a paddle that's extendable about this big. It's small. I ain't going nowhere with that thing, but at least I got it. Yeah. Have rope with you so you can have your cell phone, have a rope with you. Those are good tips too, definitely. Don't
drop your cell phone in the water like some people I know. Not to mention any names, Josh. Okay.
Now that being said, a motor will run good cold and it'll run like crap once it gets hot. So if you're testing it in your driveway, let that motor get hot. That'll be a good telltale sign that it's going to run or not.
Right. Because everything electrical breaks down under heat if allowed.
I was reading Josh's comment. I'm not going to highlight that one, Josh.
I didn't see it, but nothing was surprising.
Now you're talking about baby wipes and stuff.
He's the dude wipe king.
Let's see what right here Josh says. Regarding manuals, select manuals teach you just enough to get in trouble. Get on eBay and buy an OEM Shop Manual for your outboard. It will cover everything. That's a great point.
Great.
Before I had my boat in the water for the first time, Lyle, I bought the Shop Manual and I bought the Mechanics Manual. They're two different things.
There is.
The Mechanics one's got all the systems on there. And the Shop Manual has, it's still, it's the size of a phone book. If I put them both on top of each other, it's like this thick. But that's, that's for a newer motor. That's for a big motor. We're not talking that. We're talking just your, 9.9s and 15s, right. 25, maybe up to a 40 or a 50. That being said, you can't go wrong with a 40 horsepower Merc. Those things run forever. Same with the Everroots. 2s or 4 strokes, definitely. They'll treat you good.
I'll tell you, Mark, I used to have an old 16-foot, what it was a 16-foot military boat with handles down the side. So when guys got places there was no water, like 8 of them picked this heavy sucker up and they'd pack it to the water the next time. And no rating on it for an outboard, so I put a 65 horse on the back of it. It was a duck boat. And when I got it, it had a 35 horse jump. I swear to God, I think the thing would have run forever. And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure I forgot to put oil in when I filled up the gas and locked it up coming back from the duck. And we had to paddle that sucker for about 4 hours. Me and another guy sitting on the front of the boat, we'd take turns. We'd paddle. It'd get wore out. The other guy'd sit up there. It was horrible, but the motor had been so good, and I had a 65 horse Mercury, and it took the place of that 35 horse. Man, did that baby scream!
we had a pontoon boat way back in the day, and it had a 2-stroke Everroot 40, and I beat that thing half to death, Lyle. Dragged it across sand bottom. It was spitting mud so many times it was ridiculous on that Tippecanoe River that we were on with that. But that thing just kept running and running and running. Here's my tip of the day, and you reminded me of this. Put a little sticker right above where your gas fill is, whether it's on the side of your pontoon boat, which a lot of them are, or on your separate tank. Put two-stroke oil, ? Right above the opening.
That's right.
Especially if you got multiple people running that thing, or you're borrowing it to friends or something, you want that's you can't go wrong. I mean, you can't be too safe. So
I'm gonna tell you something that's a little bit off topic, but it kind of relates to what you're talking about. My good buddy Doc Lang, him and Lynn fished together for years and years before she passed away, and Doc forgot to put the plug in a boat, and she had a sticker made to put on the back of his motor or boat. I don't remember which it was. Don't forget the plug, baby. and he left it on there because he forgot to put the plug in. It's the same with what you're talking about. If you got something there, don't forget the oil. And I promise you, if you ever do it once, you never do it again. So it's going to cost you money.
But once is enough. Once is enough. I did that the very first time I took my old Lund out, the one that you saw when we were up in Mendota. The first time I took it out, I didn't put the plug in. I launched that boat, walked 200 yards to the parking lot, or from the parking lot. By the time I got to the boat, it had like 10 inches of water in there. I had to run my chubby butt all the way out to the parking lot. And a boat, when it's full of water, it's hard to get on a trailer. It ain't easy.
It's even harder to get on a plane.
Yes, it is.
I got a story for you, and this is the gospel. The first boat I ever wanted to buy, my sister was married to a guy that was in the finance business, and they repossessed the boat. This boat was sitting in a storage unit, and we was visiting one day, and I said, "Man, I'm looking for a boat. You don't know anybody's got one for sale?" He said, "What are you looking for?" I said, "I want a fishing boat." He said, "I don't have a fishing boat." He said, "But we repossessed a runabout, 16-foot runabout. It's got a bigger motor on it than the cowling says it's a 65 horse." He said, "But the guy raced it at this lake, and he just put a different cowling on so he could run the smaller class." Of course, that's just like racing anything. You got to teach to win. And I said, "What do you want for it?" He said, "You pay the storage bill once you have it." Done. I got it home, called my brother up, and I said, because I didn't know nothing much about boats. And I said, "I want to take this boat out and try it." He said, "Well, run." I said, "Hell, I don't know. I just got it." So we go down, we back it in the water, we fire it up. Hell, it run just purred like a kitten. He said, "You put the plug in it?" I said, "Yeah, I was laying in the bottom of the boat. I put the plug in." He said, "From the inside or the outside?" I said, "From the outside." I said, "I'm not completely stupid." Okay. So we back it in the thing, and I left him in the boat. It was just sitting there running and idling, and I went and parked the truck and get down there. He says, "Get your ass in here. You didn't put the plug in. We're filling up with water." This boat had 2 plugs.
Really?
He was holding a plug. I had put one plug in. I thought the other hole was for something else. I didn't realize that it had 2 spots for plugs. And we got that thing out on the Mississippi River of all places, and we're trying to get it up on plane. And it took a long time, but finally he got enough water out and started gaining speed. The faster the boat went, the faster the water went out of it. And he said, "I'll never trust you to put a plug in again."
I did that one other time, because when you got a boat that's got live wells in it, Lyle.
Right, they got plugs.
They got holes in the back of the boat too. You can always put that plug in that wrong spot.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it happens to the best of us. You just do what you can, dry the boat out. Just try to check if your feet are getting wet. It's either time to turn around or get up on plane and get that water out of that boat.
No kidding, man.
Get to shore. Now, real quick, let me read JG's comment. He says, "Do everything you can to keep ethanol out of your boat fuel." If you can do that, it's kind of hard. It's getting harder and harder to do. The only place I know where they sell non-ethanol fuel is at a marina, which you're going to pay out the nose for, or at Quick Trip right in Mendota. Those are the only 2 places I've ever seen it. But it's available.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to find, but ethanol, those motors was never built for ethanol to be run through. They just won't. And ethanol is like, if you're a race car guy, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like alcohol, and it's hard on fuel lines. It's hard on gaskets and carburetors. Those motors are not made for ethanol. If you can't get nothing else, you got to use it. And the oil in a 2-stroke will help you out to some extent. But ethanol is ethanol, so just bear that.
I'm not a big fan, but it's in everything these days. It's hard to avoid.
What do you want to do?
My new boat, and I know we're not talking about new motors, but my new boat actually requires the lowest grade gasoline. It says right in the manual, use 87 octane. And it says ethanol is fine. It's all built for it, so it is what it is. But older ones, not so much. Once you get those fuel lines switched out, get a good filter in there. But we're going to get to that. Now we left off with draining the gear oil. Now you can do this in a vise if you're going to change the impeller on the boat. You can take that whole lower end on these smaller ones. They're not all that heavy.
Oh,
It's usually 4 bolts. You drop it down halfway. You get a little flathead screwdriver in there. Make sure your motor is in reverse when you take the lower end. That's another tip you need to remember. Watch YouTube videos before you do this at home. It's not hard, but there are things you need to do. Usually you can drop that lower end about this far off of the motor, and you'll go in there and you'll see a little flathead screwdriver bit that attaches the top connector to the bottom connector for the shift linkage, right?
Right.
You'll need to undo that. Try not to drop that screw, and the whole thing will drop out. Make sure you got it supported. And what I'll do with an older motor like that is put it in a vise when I go to do the thing, and you can do the gear oil there, and then you'll go through the steps to change your impeller.
Not hard.
Not hard at all. It's recommended you do it every 3rd year on almost any boat that you buy, even now. You're going to do more damage to your engine from overheating it than almost, besides not putting oil in your 2-cycle, I'd say. But it's way up there. If that motor overheats, you're going to get bells and whistles if the warnings are working on it. If it's an older motor, I don't know what the cutoff would be like that. You might not have it. So
some of them don't.
Yeah, keep your motors cool. That's pretty important. Keep an eye on it, and you'll feel the heat radiate off of it through the cowling for the most part if you're not getting the words. But anyways, go ahead, go through the spots, get your new impeller. You can do that all on a bench vise if you have one. If not, you can do it in your garage, leaning it up against the garage door or whatever. It's not impossible to do, but a bench vise makes it way easier of a job. So
yep.
Then I'll work my way up past the impeller, and I'll do, the fuel filter. I'll do spark plugs, at least look at them, if not replacing them, inspect the wires, fuel lines, do all the things that we already talked about when you're buying that motor.
Right.
Make sure that you do all that stuff, and
double
you're going
check stuff.
Yep.
Double check stuff. It doesn't take but just a minute to think, well, did I miss something on this fuel line? And look it over. If there's any question, just replace it. Fuel line is probably $2 or $3 a foot now. I haven't bought it in a while, but it's money well spent if you're stuck out on a lake or the river somewhere and can't get back.
Now, Frank's got a lot of experience, I can tell, because he's saying that wire and electrical parts will get brittle on older outboards, 100%. A good wiring kit, a little bit of practice and knowledge. You can rewire stuff yourself. You might be able to find used harnesses or used sets of wires. Not even used, but new in-box overstocked items. If not, ones from China. I wouldn't recommend that, but you can use them in a pinch, definitely.
Yeah.
On eBay. eBay is a good source for older outboard parts, definitely, because people got extra sitting in their garage that they want to sell and get some money from it. But you can, as long as you're using the same gauge wiring that's in there originally, and you got quality waterproof sealing connectors. You can buy the ones on Amazon that you can heat shrink them with a heat gun that are built on the end. Those work good. I've done that in a pinch. Another thing now that we're talking about electrical, there's usually a fuse in an outboard, a main fuse. You got to make sure that that's still good. Look at that manual, like Josh was saying, that brand that he was talking about. We'll tell you where that fuse is. Yep.
Find out what size it is and keep a spare. It'll put you at the worst time in the world.
So yeah, those are definitely good tips. Not only look for mouse damage, look for just them being brittle, because they've been around for a long time. They get brittle like me and Lyle from our age too. So
that's right. That's what Greg's going through. What we just talked about. I had that 65 horse Mercury I was talking about. It done that one time.
Extra fuses.
If you're a smoker and that fuse blows and you don't have a spare, which I highly recommend, just take the oil off the cigarette pack, put it in there. It'll get you in, but please change it immediately, because that's no give. It's going to get connection no matter what. So you want to replace it as soon as you get back.
There's JG talking about it. Impeller, I'm a little behind on the chat, folks. We start yapping here, and I kind of lose talk. Let's see what Bobby has to say. Bobby Brooks says, he's trying to find a 25 horse Yamaha. Not too many floating around here in Minnesota. Now, here's a tip. Widen if you go on to let's say you're looking for them on Facebook Marketplace, Bobby, there's a setting in there where you can set where you want to look. Find out the
how many miles from your home base.
Not just miles, but I think it's zip code driven. Find out how far you want to go. Find out what the zip code is for that area. You could enter that in there, and it'll give you it'll expand your search results. So there's an option too. If you're willing, there's also apps out there that'll alert you when new items come for sale on Facebook Marketplace that a lot of flippers use. If you're really in need of a motor and you want something cheap and something specific, you could enter all that criteria in those apps. I don't have their names off at hand, but if you look up Marketplace apps in your App Store or in the Google Play Store, I'm sure you'll come across them, find the one you need. That could point you in the right direction a lot faster and get you to the sale of that item before somebody else gets to it. So those are pretty good.
Yep. We have some more good comments.
We got tons of comments here.
Really
Frank says, if it's used and not broke, it will be soon. Might as well go ahead and change it. Yeah, that's for sure. I think he's talking about the impeller and other parts, definitely.
See you later, Joe Buck.
Now, here's a something that I definitely have experience with, Lyle. JG Hill says, I have a water pressure gauge on my dash from the engine. Don't see those much. Well,
I've never seen
on that old pontoon boat that I was talking about, Lyle, basically what it is, it's a hard plastic tube that runs from a T on the actual we call it a P hole on the motor. And that just runs up to the dash, behind the dash, and it reads the pressure that way. That being said, I've had wet feet from that coming off the back of that gauge.
Oh, absolutely. The speedometer, the old speedometers will pee on you like that too, and it gets hot.
Yeah, it's hot, and it's just you'll be wondering what the heck's going on. So keep that in mind. I think that's probably why they don't do it anymore. So
Dawson has joined chat. Welcome, sir. Glad to have you in here.
There's Sean T says, hello, everyone. Y'all old timers. Know y'all's motor. Don't rev up anymore. Thanks, Sean. I'm just getting to Frank's paddle comment here. I am behind. Greg Burgess says, Mark, I have a temp gun to check temperatures off the heads while testing. Sometimes mud gets, especially when you set it up. Yeah. You can get those at Harbor Freight too. I have one of those. They're great. I use it. Listen to this, Lyle. I use it for things like this, for mechanical reasons, right? You're not sticking it in the oil or anything. You're just shooting a laser onto something. It's fine. I use it to measure the heat of how hot my oil is when I'm frying fish. I measure the inside of my bar, everything, how much air. Multi-use tool. I highly recommend, if you can get one of those laser temperature guns, that you get one, because you'll use it for anything and everything around the house.
You know what? One of the biggest things that they're good for, and I got this tip from my buddy Don. If you're traveling long distances with a boat, you can just take that thing out of your pocket and check the wheel bearing temperature. If one of them has got higher temperature than the rest of them, you got a problem.
Lyle, now I got to buy a second one for my truck. See what you just did? Oh, my goodness.
I can help you with that.
I'm sure you can. Okay, I'll tell you what. You want to help me? You come out here. We'll go to Harbor Freight, and then we'll have ourselves an adult beverage on the way home. How about that?
Hell with Harbor Freight.
Frank's touching on horsepower here. He says, colder, denser air equals more horsepower.
Frank has raced cars before, I promise you, because that is a great tip.
Greg says, Mark, my problem is I have an 85 Chrysler 86 model. They don't have too many books left. Keep an eye on eBay. Somebody will have one sooner or later.
Might not find it today or tomorrow, but there'll be one on there somewhere.
One sooner or later, or make friends with your local service shop. They might have one you can borrow. Pay them $10 to borrow it, photocopy or take pictures with your phone, maybe for nothing. Bring them in, you know, a case of beer, whatever it takes. You'd be surprised what a little grease will get you done. That being said, there's my next tip. There's always grease zerks on all over a motor, whether it's on the tip. We're not going to get in. We're not going to get into the trim yet because most of these small motors are manual trims. But if you got a trim motor on there, learn to check the level of the fluid on there, and you can go from there. As far as changing seals and stuff, I'm sure you can find videos on that. I'm not that versed on it. So
there's another option that we've forgotten about for people looking for manuals and different things. Your library. A lot of libraries have manuals for nearly everything. I would go up there and they would have the newest manuals, automotive stuff. If I was looking for electrical problems and I didn't have the newest book and the dealer wouldn't help me out, I just go to the library. They already had it. It's on film, and you just pull it up and get all your information.
Here's a, you know, there's that being said, also there's companies on the internet that have all these manuals scanned. If you do a search, chances are you might be able to find a PDF or an electronic copy that'll cost you $20 that you can download.
Yep.
Those are worth it too. Just before you hit the download and buy it now button, make sure it's for the right model. Use your serial number, do your search, make sure you got it for the right one. Plain and simple.
Due diligence. Common sense goes a long way.
Yeah, the older the motor, the more you're going to have to dig, but it's not impossible. JJ Hill, mixed fuel 50-1 is 2.6 ounces of two-stroke oil per gallon of gas. Check manufacturer suggestions for your motor. Do that. Check it. Make sure. That's another reason why a manual is a good thing, because that Evinrude I had was 32-1, Lyle, believe it or not.
Right.
You know, it was an oil injection model, but it's still in the manual. It says that it mixes it at 32-1. That being said, a little extra two-cycle isn't going to kill your motor.
No, it's not. Some of the older ones was even 16-1.
Yeah, I haven't seen those, but I don't doubt you one bit whatsoever.
I had a 7.5 horse steers motor that I used to have on an old John boat I had, and it was 16-1.
Let's see what Frank says. He says, I will jump straight in the water and put that plug in. Done it quite a few times. I've got plugs everywhere. I got 3 plugs in my boat, Lyle. Oh, not including here's another tip.
If and you keep one in your door, your truck.
I put one in there. I got 3 in my boat. I got one in the glove box in the boat. I got one in the cup holder right next to my driver's seat, right. And I got the one that I use in the back, right? I also, another thing is, if you have a live well, those live well plugs will work as a boat plug as well.
Yeah, baby. I tell you something else. My plug, I had to put a new plug system in the back of my boat. The one that comes with it was a screw-in type. You can't buy it anymore. Nothing would fit it. I put one in that had 2 little legs that stuck out on it, and it just hang there. They go nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I got to checking it. Those was really, really weak, and I was worried about it falling out going down the road, and I'd get somewhere and wouldn't have no plug because it screws in. So now you just give it a little tug, it comes right out. I put it in the door of my truck. I know where it is. But again, that company's no longer in business. But the next time I change that, I'll get 2 of them.
You can buy them at Walmart for like $2.
Yep, but they won't fit the threads on these.
Be just like Lyle with fishing tackle. If you need one, buy 12.
That's not necessarily true, but you're close.
Yes, it is. Don't even lie. Don't lie to our good viewers. Why would you do that, Lyle?
Well, it's kind of like tying jigs. I learned my lesson on that fly that time. I only took one fishing. Now when I tie them up, I tie a bunch of them in case they work. If they don't, they go in a box. I'll try them again the next.
Frank says that older oil-injected outboards will often have an auto blend unit that has a separate filter. That I didn't come across, but I don't doubt that one bit.
Know that either.
There's Joe Buck. He's been a member for 29 months. Thank you, Joe Buck. If you guys haven't hit the thumbs up, please hit the thumbs up. It's free. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a link down there where you can join and be a supporter. Greatly appreciated. It helps bring us get more content. It buys Lyle all sorts of tackle, and he likes 12 of everything, so he needs all the help he can get.
Also, comments. If you guys have any comments about our shows, that affects the algorithm. I didn't realize that for a long time, but we're happy to answer them. I look at all of them. I might be a day or two getting to some of them, but if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, we are always open to hear them. And you guys are awesome. We have such great participation in the chat. We've had so many things tonight, Mark, that these people have helped us with, things that I actually didn't think about. And it's like that with just about everything.
922 Crappie Barbecue's got a tip. He says, if you have a two-stroke, do not use tri-fire plugs. They'll overheat or burn holes in pistons. I have no experience with them. I just use a standard plug, but I don't doubt that that's not true. So let me say hello to Jason Lamb. Let me say hello to Greg Burgess. He popped in here while we were talking. Lance McCoo guy was just here. Dawson over at Fishing with Squirrel. He's calling us gentlemen. That's kind of a stretch.
That's loose, but we'll take it.
We'll take it. Frank says, I may be showing my age. Y'all are probably talking outboards newer than 20 years. Not necessarily. I mean, it's 2025. The one we picked up was a 1989 this week. So that goes to tell you. And there's people, I mean, the Benoit ladies, they have, I think they said theirs was an 86, if I remember correctly.
So 83, yeah.
Just because it's old doesn't mean you can't revive it and you can't use it. It'll be the best $200-300 you spend. Put another $100 into it, and you're on the water in no
Good
time.
to go. That's right. And a lot of them old motors, I swear that if you take care of them, they'll run a long way.
Dawson's got a tip here. Says one of those workbench woodworking benches works great for holding the foot while you change the impeller and gears. Okay, so you can use the vise on those. That's a great tip too. Frank says it might be old, but the torque in a straight 6 Merc is an eye opener.
They are. Them was great old motors, man. It really was. I had several of them over the years.
I'm not sure. I'm Matt. Okay, I got you down for one. All right. Look at all of these comments we still got, Lyle. We're going to keep going through these.
Absolutely. If you don't mind.
I got nowhere to be. I'm just half asleep from battling those waves all day, but I'll be all right. I do it for you guys.
Yeah, Matt says, be careful. Lyle. Nowadays, people don't know what a library is. That's probably true. It really is.
Well, you know, the internet's a blessing and a curse. And one of the blessings is if you need information like that, it's usually out there if you can't make it to a library or have one near. If you live in a rural area, your library is probably a lot smaller than the ones available to me. So use the internet. And right now, everybody's got a cell phone. You can find the stuff you need on there. So
I have to admit, when I was going to the libraries for that kind of information I was talking about earlier, was the Springfield, Missouri library, which is huge. Well, it'd be like going to the one where you live. And they had everything, and it was up to date. They kept stuff up to date, and I don't believe, best I remember, I was never there. I didn't find the information.
Do I say it? Should I say it, Lyle?
Yeah.
Is it just like the Barack Obama library here in downtown Chicago?
Absolutely not.
Okay, that's all I need to hear. Dennis over at Northeast Missouri Angler says, my old Everroot, I mix to about 40 to 1. Let her smoke, keeps the skeeters away.
There you go. Oh,
all right, Squirrel says he's working his butt off. He's working towards that retirement, if I remember correctly. Absolutely, it does help the algorithm, and it's nice when people are taking part in the conversation. Don't you agree,
Yep,
Lyle?
I do, and I enjoy it. I mean, like I said, we have had awesome comments from so many of the guys that watch our show tonight and nearly every show. Participation means a lot to me. Mark, you and I do this because we enjoy doing this. There's nothing. This channel doesn't make any money. It's not about money. It's about having a good time. You and I get along really well, and we got great participation in chat. As long as it stays like that, hell,
We see this. We see relatively the same people every week, and we love seeing them too.
that,
Now
that's
that being said, let me finish up real quick. I kind of got sidetracked with it. So you got the impeller changed. You got the gear oil changed. If it's a two-stroke, change the oil in the motor. Can't hurt to change the plugs, plug wires. If everything else is working right and you're getting it to start relatively easy within a few pulls, it runs good when it's cold. It runs good when it's hot. You know, you're in good shape.
that's right.
There you go. Plain and simple to wrap it up, Lyle. I had a lot of fun talking outboards with you today, bud.
Oh
And
man, it was a blast. There is a couple of comments left here. 922 says Lyle outboard is a flock of geese from the ark. Thank you so much for that. Oh man, I
what
tell
does
you,
Matt say? Great chemistry in here, and I don't just mean the drinks.
that's right. We uh, I have can't walk as far as I used to, and thanks to James and Katie Dockery has showed me a bunch of these conservation lakes uh, that have docks you can walk out on and fish because they're covered. If it's raining, you don't get drowned. I don't take the boat out on rainy days. I don't have to, so I don't do it. Um, I can't walk as far as I used to. So these tips and things that come up, not necessarily for this show, but for other shows, are a big deal to making things work for everybody. So participation that we have is really outstanding. I know everybody has a certain amount of participation, but I think we have a great deal of it and knowledgeable stuff from quite capable people. So if it's something that Mark and I are not comfortable with, you won't hear us talk about it. Probably not see it, but we don't have them issues. You know, we get some horsing around from some weekend angler folks, but it's all in fun. We know what it is. Don't always catch it. Sometimes he trips me up, and I say something he's put in there by, you know what I mean. But it's all in fun, and the next time we do a show like this, we might want to get uh, get Josh to come on with us because he is very nice.
We need him to behave for a couple of weeks before we let him up here on screen.
Ain't sure that's
Ain't gonna happen though. That's the problem.
no, it's not.
His usefulness may outweigh that other part.
It might. And
Just
he'll
kidding,
talk
Josh.
politics with me. Chad won't talk politics with me. Josh will jump right in both feet, man.
I've talked politics with you, Josh. That could be the end of us. All right, folks. Well, we apologize for missing last week. It was for circumstances beyond our control. We definitely missed y'all. We're glad y'all came back here. We definitely appreciated y'all coming right back to us once we came back, didn't we, Lyle?
Yep, and with good Lord willing, we'll be back next week. Good.
Hey, if you're still listening, he didn't ask me to say this, but Fish on Ed Evans is having a show. He asked what time our show is tonight. We might have went over a little bit. Head on over there. Tell him we sent you over there. He's announcing his for the next flathead season. He fishes hardcore all night for them flatheads on the Schuylkill River. Go over there and just say hello. Tell him we sent you over there. We'd appreciate it. And once again, he didn't ask me to do this, but I thought it was really stand up that he asked what time we were going to be done, and he waited until we were done to do it.
That's outstanding. So wish him the best and hope everything goes well for him. As soon as I get everything loaded up, you and I are done visiting. I'll probably jump in there and say hello.
Yep, I'll stop in there. And also, if you guys want to help out the Catfish and Crappie channel, which is going to start live streaming again, you can always go over to Whisker Seekers, buy what you need, use my code MCC15. It'll save you 15% at checkout. I get a few dollars from it, but I'd rather see anybody that uses it save that 15% because it adds up. Definitely
And
does.
you know, Mark, if you go shopping, get your credit card out. I'll be glad to.
All right, after the show. Hold your breath. Good night, everybody.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.